What we've been trying to follow up on, and I've made several attempts, and hopefully this will be the final one. But in our last few videos, we talked about the Indians that Giovanni Verrazzano, Giovanni Verrazzano found here who looked like Ethiopians. And so the question has been, what happened to those Indians that look like Ethiopians of the South? Because when Verrazano came, he came to North Carolina, the Roanoke. Those are the Indians that those are my ancestors, right? And he described them as dark skin, okay? Uh, Not unlike Ethiopians. Well, what that means is their skin tone was like Ethiopians, not unlike them, but like Ethiopians. Okay, but colonizer has to use word spells because they don't want to outright say it, so they'll do anything to impede just plain saying it and making it plain. So they have to write, the Indians were dark, not unlike Ethiopians. Like, could you just cut out the fancy talk and say that they looked like Ethiopians in skin tone, meaning they were what you call Negro? That's what you're saying, not Mongolian. So where did the Mongolian five civilized tribes come from? What we've been wanting to say is we got a big clue from a certain judge, and we'll just go by his last name. Uh, Judge Brown was a guest on an Indian platform. On that platform, Judge Brown made the bold statement that all Indians chose to be called black. Uh, on that same platform, where he was a guest along with Dane Calloway, and they really got into it, and it was a rather popular video. Uh, the other thing he said was that he was of Indian blood. Judge Brown, does he look Mongolian? Some people might refer to him as a Negro, right? Black, colored. Judge Brown, for all practical purposes, is an American Indian. Now, he may be mixed, but that's what we've been saying all along. When Indians mix, the Indian part gets genocided, and the Negropean part is all of a sudden the talk of the town, right? So, what is the goal of this government? It is to change the face of the American Indian so that all Indians, which we are still the majority on the land, so that all Indians will be seen as African. But the clue to what Judge Brown said lies in the fact that he knows for certain that one of his grands, I believe he said it was his grandmother, was of one of the southern tribe of Indians, and that would have been one of the civilized tribes. And I believe he said it was Choctaw, if I'm remembering correctly. It was definitely, evidently, a civilized tribe. Because remember, uncivilized tribes are like they don't exist, okay? So he knows himself to be of Indian heritage. Yet his message that he's getting from his Indians, his group of Indians, is that we chose to be called black. What they're really saying is that the civilized tribes chose to be called black, Negro, colored, right? That's the clue. And what we coined was the phrase, it seems the five civilized tribes went underground like Judge Brown. And again, what we mean by that is they traded their Indian for, I guess, what they saw to be a more sophisticated heritage as quote unquote blacks. Landless, nationless blacks. But the assumption is that they're from Africa. Somewhere in Africa. West Africa, somewhere, right? This is evidently the big clue that pretty much I didn't tap into until I thought about it, and that was just recently. Now, this video that he was a guest on, this took place, I think, going on 2 years ago, I believe, or more than a year. So, the point of this video is to take note by a former Indian who now says that his tribe of Indians chose to be called black. So what that means is they made a choice for all Indians. And why did they make that choice? Because they are on colonizer agenda. And what colonizer would like is that Indians be known as black. And the trade-off, we might imagine, is, well, you might become a very prominent and celebrity-like judge on TV. And these kind of props are what some civilized tribe Indians who gave up their birthright to become pawns in a commercial Ponzi scheme and collect the best of the privileges and benefits at the cost of their birthright. So this is what we wanted to say. When foreigners or even Indians ask, how did the 5 civilized tribes become so Mongolian when Giovanni Verrazano found Indians that looked Ethiopian? Do Mongolians look like Ethiopians? No, not really, right? Okay, so then why did Giovanni Verrazano see Negro Indians here? Where did they go? Those Indians had to give up their birthright in order to steer the uncivilized Indians away, further away from their birthright so that it could be handed on a silver platter to Mongolian civilized tribes. So effectively, what has happened once again? The real Indians have been genocided, and a storefront was put in the place of those Indians, but those otherwise Negro Indians of the civilized tribes and the Iroquois Confederacy are now what I would have to conclude have become the black elite. Now, the black elite are of the ilk of for instance, Jesse Jackson, who came, in the 1980s and did another identity change when he came up with African American. So now this was a committee of mysterious Negroes, right? Because they don't want to be Indian anymore, right? They're the black caucus, whatever. I don't know, the Negro this, the black that, the color this, the W.E.B. Du Bois types, And so they are constantly flipping the identity of Indians by being the spokesperson for all former Indians who have been misclassified black. They come along and decide, a decision was made amongst the blacks that now they want to become African American. That is a bold ass move. Thank you for genociding us again, Mr. Jackson. Thank you. That will be added to the cost in reparations. And they don't want to give us reparations, right? But what we will demand is, first of all, that Indian not taxed standing that we were supposed to have before we were misclassified black. We'll take that back now, please. That'll be the beginning of our reparations, not paying you taxes. We don't, this is what I want to say. Indians, Americans, do not owe this United States one damned penny. They have used us and our resources endlessly and rigorously for their own profit and to spread out to all the immigrants that they so gladly invite here. This is all a genocide. You having all these foreigners come here while I don't even have my proper identity, I guess the hope is that we'll just breed out. All we get is genocided Indians. So they can produce an argument against reparations all they want. They won't be able to argue the Indian not taxed standing, especially the part when they're put to the fire to explain how is it that you were able to so freely genocide American Indians when the Constitution says we're not even under your jurisdiction by virtue of we're not counted in your census, so you wouldn't even know how many of us are here. So we were free to roam this land the way we freely wanted to. But you kept imposing your paperwork on us, like we needed paperwork. No, we don't. You came here to live with me, right? Yes, I know you intended for me to be long genocided, but at the end of the day, you came to my house. I roam freely in my house. I don't pay anybody to live in my house. In fact, they owe me compensation for occupying my house virtually uninvited and then trying to genocide my existence so that you can take everything in my house and what? Live off of me, right? You're so godly, you're so royal, you're so priestly, but your God didn't provide you enough means that you wouldn't have to steal from me as an American, give my identity to every Tom, Dick, and Harry that you invite, and just promote this foolish idea that, oh, all the Indians died of smallpox. How convenient. How convenient for you, right? So what we're going to say is these folks are still using the doctrine of discovery to elude anything that was our standing in the Constitution. They just use the doctrine of discovery to just erase all of that. And then they claim that a commerce clause gives them the right, basically, to misclassify me. That's what they think a commerce clause is supposed to do. Now, they wouldn't dare do that to, like we've always said, they wouldn't dare do that to other nations of the world, right? As we said before, China wouldn't have to become yellow to get involved in commerce. They don't have to change their Chinese standing, right? Their Chinese nationality or ethnic identity, right? To get involved in commerce with the United States. But Indians do. Indians have to become black. They have to become federal. They have to become 501c3s so that they can virtually ignore the fact that you are the owner of the land. So once they get you out the way, Indian, federal Indian, and 501c3 Indian, then you become just like any other foreigner, right? Oh, but then you start operating in private and you think you've arrived. No, you just went further into the fraud. Why? Where in the Constitution does it say anybody is operating in private or public? Where did that come from? Where's it in the Constitution? It's not there. It's a product of commerce, y'all. Commerce is doing a lot. And it practically eradicated the Foreigners' Bill of Rights. Yes, it did. They got, we all got basically regulated out of free speech. Because commerce comes along and says, oh, you can't offend nobody. Well, those those people, those bodies, they came to a free country. Does the free country stop being free because they don't want to offend the immigrants that came here and did not fight for these freedoms? Now, Americans not part of this fight. We got dragged in under the guise of being African slaves, right? Yeah. But the later arriving foreigners who, I don't know, did not have anything to do with the fight for even the Bill of Rights. And now a foreigner comes and we got to give up the Bill of Rights so we don't offend the newly arrivals. Every American should be standing for their Bill of Rights. Every immigrant American, I should say. Indians are not part of that. We don't have a Bill of Rights. We have birthrights far beyond any Bill of Rights. Okay? Nobody gave us our rights. They just took them away. Our rights on this land are the top-notch, top-billing type of rights. They're called birthright. But because we have been very actively genocided, the system that is here gets to promote the false notion that, oh, the Indians abandoned all this land. Ooh, they gone. So we got it in a trust for everybody else. Everything that belongs to them is in a trust for, we just hold it and give it out to other people who we deem to be, quote unquote, American Indian. Namely the Mongolians. Oh, and some Caucasians are Indians as well. But those Ethiopian-looking Indians that one of their European brothers found here, they never existed. So what? Giovanni Verrazzano was lying? No, he wasn't. He was actually telling the truth. So anyway, this is what we're going to leave off today with, because this is what we've been looking to say for a while, and we just wanted to say it and be able to move on to next. So we have a storefront, new Mongolian 5 civilized tribes, because the main first Negro looking civilized tribes, they said they decided to be called black. Now, all Indians didn't get that memo, but because the government only listens to quote-unquote civilized tribes, which the Constitution never said that they're bound only to civilized tribes, but that's the Indian that they like to listen to, because that Indian is their puppet that steers the narrative for all Indians. So then you get, again, people like Jesse Jackson saying that all colored folks wants to be called African American now. As if he came to each and every Negro's house and took a survey and went traipsing back to wherever he came from, talking about we want to be called African American. He took on a lot when he did that, yo. That's a bold ass move to take the responsibility for all these souls. It couldn't be me, y'all. That's a bold ass move, though. But I guess when you're all oathed up, and blood oathed up, you just be feeling yourself. To speak for every single Negro in the Americas, formerly known as American, this one, I believe he was from the Blackfoot Indians, claims that he's not only are all Indians now African, but he's co-signing on that, and he's approving of that. Who gave you the right? Who gave you the right to speak for all Indians? It's always the civilized tribes that are speaking for Indians and are dominating the narrative. And Indians need to be very aware of that. What that means is you're getting advice from Indians who are already in bed with colonizer Moors. So thank you for watching. Until next time, thank you.